So a well-rounded person has to become someone others want to be around. That person is fun, happy, and exciting. He's a people magnet. And that's where opportunities are to be shared and encouragement is to be given. The person gets more than, for instance, you, who he's talking to, someone who's not. Said very simply, young man, you must become the person that others want to be around. This is far and away the greatest success secret in existence.
I like that.
Being interesting to others. That's where it came from.
I think if I was reading that, that's something I would underline.
All right. I'm free to roam about the country. How are you?
I'm really good. So I assume you have a minute.
Yeah, I got a minute. I got that backup recording device, but it's still in the box.
You haven't even broken it out yet?
No, haven't opened it up yet.
That's
Someday.
It's really goofy.
Someday that will be free as well. We'll say, free at last. Free at last.
All right. Well, I've been thinking about something for the probably last 10 years of my life, and I just want to ask you about it.
10 years?
Yeah, it's a really big question for me, and it's impacting.
Have you talked with other people? Have you talked with everyone else about it? And now finally you're opening it up to me?
No, I've been talking to myself about it, and then in the last week I did ask somebody else about it, and it didn't seem like it concerned them at all.
Oh, so it wasn't a big deal? Okay. We'll see if it's a big deal or not then.
Yeah. Is it even a big deal? My question is, what does it mean to be a well-rounded person? And is that even something to be concerned about?
Well-rounded, and what you mean by that is balance.
Yeah, I think that is kind of, I mean, it's balanced, but like heavier.
Well-rounded.
It's heavier. It's like intentionally balanced. But the level, I think to me, it means the level of balance is still a high. You've got a high amount of this and that other thing to make you well-rounded. It's not limiting certain things so that you're
not balanced by taking things away. You're balanced by adding the appropriate things.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Balance yourself by adding what's appropriate.
Like you've got your base level, and then you add enough of other stuff to round yourself out, instead of doing less of your base stuff, so that.
So you're thinking of it. If you think of it geometrically, like a circle, and it's got holes in it, or a sphere,
because it's round.
A sphere that has well, any number of ways to look at this, but any of them would be cool to look at. The Earth, if you made it the size of a marble, would be very smooth. But right now, the size of the Earth has mountains and valleys that are miles high and miles deep.
Yeah.
So those miles, it just by size, by looking at it, sizing it appropriately, you round it out, you smooth it out.
So
I don't know, smooth.
So by making the Earth smaller, you make it smoother.
Yeah. And by making it, well, and maybe the rounding out. What was the question again?
What does it mean to be a
well-rounded
person?
Life? Yeah. What does it mean to be a well-rounded person? Or should we even try to be a well-rounded person?
Yeah.
To be well-rounded. So the first place my thought went to was health and your physique. Should you be well-rounded? Should you be healthy and stout and strong, and as opposed to frail and weak or obese? Well-rounded isn't necessarily obese.
Yeah.
I might say that, but well-heeled, maybe use that term with animals sometimes.
You say well-heeled for animals?
Well-heeled, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I've heard that before.
Huh.
I've never used it. I haven't been with animals long enough.
And you've been with animals a long time.
Maybe that means well-trained. Well-trained or something, is
well-adjusted.
Well-heeled and well-rounded. Well-adjusted, yeah. And it has to do with, well-rounded in a human means they're adjusted to society. You're working well with all the communities you serve and you serve in. and you're responsible for your life operating well. So if there's pieces that are missing, so if your circle, your sphere is a certain size, your aura around you covers these things, and instead of pulling something back to be well-rounded, you add something.
Yeah, so instead of making the earth smaller, you just fill in the spaces so that everything is as high as the mountains.
Right. Or you build your building spot so what you're building on is a smooth ground. I mean, you do that in construction all the time. Let's take the top of that mountain off, make it level so that we can put the complex right here on top of this.
Yeah.
Or you fill in the part that is low. I just built a road out on the side of my property that there was a dip. It was kind of hard to drive through, but I filled it in with material. I didn't take out, I didn't dig down to make it level. You could do the same. You could dig down to make it level or fill in to make it level. So I just filled in the gap.
Yeah.
And so you do that, you make things more rounded, well-rounded.
So what do you think someone that is well-rounded looks like?
They look healthy, right?
Yeah.
They have to look healthy.
Well,
you can't be well-rounded. Well, can you look frail and be well-rounded? Gandhi didn't necessarily look healthy.
Yeah, well, that's a good
because he was on hunger strike.
Because does well-rounded mean everything in your
healthy
life, or is it just an educational thing?
Yeah, so, and Gandhi may be a good one to talk about in regard to that. When he was on a hunger strike for 30 days, was he still well-rounded? Or the fact that he responsibly or intentionally stopped eating, did that unround him? Did that cause him to be less of a person or less of a leader? Really, that caused him to be more of a leader. That's really what got everyone's attention, is that he was willing to forego food and go on a hunger strike. And that impressed more people than if he had started the war they expected him to start.
Yeah. So I've always considered well-rounded person to mean what you know, like it's a intellectual thing. I've never thought that it could be that it was every aspect relating to the health, like physical things. And so that's interesting.
So for you, it's only been intellectual?
Yeah, it has. It's if someone's a well-rounded person, then their tastes in music and movies and stuff have always been like balanced and like never too much in one thing and never nothing in another category, like another genre.
So with that classification, Taylor Swift is losing.
She's losing the well-rounded competition.
Right.
Because she
can't be well-rounded because she's 100% music.
Right now maybe she is. I wonder if she likes to read.
Michael Jackson. Look at Michael Jackson's life. He was 100% movie star or whatever. Yeah. Pop star.
Oh, yeah.
100% celebrity. Michael Jackson was 100% celebrity. He didn't do anything else that wasn't.
That's their life.
In his whole life, from the time he was 4 years old or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, he was born. He's been a celebrity.
So these people are amazing. And if they're not well-rounded in my definition of the phrase, then obviously it's not important that someone is well-rounded. Because those people deserve esteem and respect for what they are.
Right. And if you're going to be a professional in one thing, any professional is going to be not necessarily well-rounded.
Right.
Tom Brady, or who's the quarterback now? A quarterback isn't going to be doing all kinds of things. He's not going to be part of a band. It's not going to be an equal. So are they not well-rounded because they're focused on just one thing?
Yeah, that's a good question, because your definition of well-rounded is different than mine. Mine's intellectually well-rounded, and you were considering physical. these people obviously eat well and are very active. They have to be.
Right. And do you have to have how many different intellectual ventures do you have to be on to be called well-rounded? I mean, if you do one, is that enough, or do you have to do 8 different things? And if you do 20, is that too many? 20 different genres to be thinking on and discussing
and knowing
about. Jack of all trades and master of none. If you're a master, are you not well-rounded? And if you're a jack of all trades, are you not well-rounded because you know everything about a lot about a lot of things, but not everything about anything?
I'm wondering if, in order to be a master in a trade, you need to know enough about a bunch of other trades as well.
Well, there is I believe it's the hedgehog principle. I don't know why it has the word hedgehog principle.
Well, look it up. Let's talk about the
Jim Collins
principle.
In the
Good to Great.
Good to Great. Do you have Good to Great right there on your shelf somewhere?
Yeah. Tell me which page and I'll open it up. Just kidding. So you have an index.
22.
Hedgehog.
It's somewhere near the front where he talks about hedgehog principle.
He does have an index, so I'm just going to pull it up. EFGH. Hedgehog concept.
Yeah.
Page 13.
And I think what that is that you use information from different industries to benefit yours. So what you were just saying, if you understand, but see if that's what it is.
Now, let me read it.
Okay.
The hedgehog concept. To go from good to great requires transcending the curse of competence. Just because something is your core business, just because you've been doing it for years or perhaps even decades, does not necessarily mean you can be the best in the world at it. And if you cannot be the best in the world at your core business, then your core business absolutely cannot form the basis of a great company. It must be replaced with a simple concept that reflects deep understanding of 3 intersecting circles. And I assume that 3 intersecting circles are explained somewhere else.
Yeah, the circles are what you can be best at, what you have the aptitude to do, and what the economic engine can be behind it.
Oh, yes. What you're deeply passionate about, what you can be the best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine.
Yeah. So that's the hedgehog concept, is you've got to have those 3 concepts there. But it says competence. It's not just competence. You have to have the other 2. Maybe that's what it is. The hedgehog just works and continues working. He's not very exciting. He's not a zebra or a giraffe. He's a hedgehog.
Huh.
But he gets his work done. And that's how he gets his work done, is with those 3 things. So that's what it is. I think he kind of identified competence. You have to get information from other arenas, though, other areas. You can't just work in your single area of competence and expect that everything's going to work fine. You have to be informed by other areas in your well-rounded sphere. You can learn from other areas of life.
Yeah, so that's to be well-rounded. And is that also to be a master?
To be a master, you need competence in a single thing. So that's competence, and that's the passion and the drive to understand fully what it is that you're working on.
So competence would be the can you do it circle, and then the passion is the passion circle, and then it has to be something that, wasn't there like 3 P's for these 3 circles? I remember you telling me about something years ago where you have the passion and the pay, like you have to get paid. Is this I
don't remember.
Tim Ferriss thing? Does he talk about this?
No, I don't think so. Well, he's talked to Jim Collins.
He's talked to Jim Collins. I feel like these 3 circles
I'm sure that
had
it
a P.
came out, but this is where it came from. I don't know. Whether it's written other places or in other ways. I'm thinking the Venn diagram idea of it, and it's kind of a Venn diagram, but it's where the intersection of other concepts. That's the life leadership type stuff. I think that's where they introduced the P into it, or different words.
Oh, okay.
But it's the intersection of different genres or different business models, that you gain that expertise, or you can improve on something by intersecting medicine and mathematics. I don't know. We need an example for that. Well-rounded, like Jordan Peterson and who he talks to. Tim Ferriss may be good too, because he's talking to a lot of people. He's gaining a broader knowledge every time he interviews someone else.
Yeah.
You have questions and you interview them, and you talk about it and try to delve into it and get in depth in some part of what they're the expert at, and share your expertise with them. That's been a complaint, as far as well-rounded. Jordan Peterson, the only thing I'd say against him at times is he tends to tell his side of the story quite often when he's interviewing someone else.
Okay. Because it is his podcast, after all.
It's his podcast. He knows what he's talking about, and he'll form a question, and the question will be 10 minutes long, and it will include a lot of education he's trying to teach the guy he's talking to, instead of just asking the question. And that's one thing I think that Tim Ferriss does as a good interviewer, is he'll may take a little bit of time to form up a question, but he's not necessarily trying to teach the one he's invited to be on the podcast. He's forming the question, then asking the question, letting the person then present their point.
Okay.
I've often thought Jordan Peterson just at times starts teaching, lecturing, as opposed to interviewing.
Yeah.
And so a master will do that. And actually, no, maybe that's not a masterful thing to do, because you have this Socratic dialectic. The Socratic idea is don't lecture at all. Just ask the appropriate question to lead somebody to that discussion, to that discovery.
Okay.
So you'll lead them with a question. And who's to say? I mean, maybe Socrates was wrong and Jordan Peterson's right.
Huh.
That's just as valid, an idea that Jordan's more rounded than Socrates was. Because no one can talk to Socrates. No, Socrates never wrote anything. We don't have anything from him. We have Plato's writings about what he did. So was he well-rounded? Socrates didn't write. Shakespeare didn't write anything outside of his plays. So does that mean he wasn't well-rounded?
I feel like in order to be able to write his plays, he had to know a lot. He knew a lot about Homer's writings. He knew a lot about his culture. And I think that indicates that he was well-rounded before he specialized.
If he was well-rounded, there would be other examples of his writing.
What do you mean?
If he wrote as prolific as he did. So I mean that Shakespeare didn't write those things.
Oh, yes. You subscribe to the
I'm of the
Shakespeare
thought
didn't
that
actually
it
write
was an
his stuff.
aristocrat. Yeah, it was an aristocrat that gave it to him because the aristocrat couldn't publish it. So he had Shakespeare published for him. And I don't know the guy's name, but yeah, I subscribe to that theory. The person who wrote it all, the person who understood it, did write a whole lot of stuff, because you couldn't have gone that deep in all those plays without having thought through all of it a few times. So the fact if there's nothing else that Shakespeare wrote but those plays, that doesn't pan out to be reality.
Do you have something I could read or watch about that so that I could be convinced of that?
I'm sure there are, but I haven't read anything. I saw a white paper once. It is like a podcast or a what do they call those things that aren't podcasts?
Blogs?
A blog post about it. So
the blog post was
enough
to convince you?
Yeah. Well, plus logic. You've got to think it through. I think it through. I thought it through.
Okay.
And of course, my thinking is always correct.
That's right. As we all know.
As we all know, our thinking is always correct. Altogether. So what? Well-rounded, though. Why would it ever be used? How would you talk? Why would you say someone's well-rounded? Use this political environment we're in. Right? Who's the well-rounded candidates?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe I don't know the background of the candidates that we have. I mean, I know that Trump is a businessman, so he knows business.
Businessman, movie star.
Movie star? Did he star in movies?
Well, The Apprentice. Yeah.
Well, that's a
What do
show.
you call those type of shows?
But
reality shows.
Reality show.
Yeah.
We
He's a
just
movie
say
star.
someone's a movie star.
A lot of people probably only know him from The Apprentice.
Really?
Yeah, I bet.
But he was a businessman. The reason he did that was because he was a businessman, not because he wanted to get into
businessman
entertainment.
in New York. So he's a New York, primarily New York businessman, though his buildings are everywhere.
Right.
But the movies did a lot for him. Not movies, but reality TV, television star, and now a politician. And politician is one of the things he went to later. So those three different careers make him rounded to a specific degree. He was never poor, though.
Right.
He was never a hillbilly like J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was a hillbilly. He had that behind him, and then he was a military man. Trump was never in the military. And it's interesting, he's never claimed he ever was. He just never was.
Okay, so maybe he's not, as far as life experiences go, you wouldn't say that he's well-rounded. Not that anyone has
Trump?
Real control over that.
Well,
anyway.
So, okay. You got to think. And so the JD had the lower level rounding of being poor and then building his military career, and then through that building a lawyer degree, and then going on to start a few businesses, and then being invited to run for Congress for the Senate, and how vice president okay. And then who knows how that's going to round him. But political environment may be the end of his life, or it may just be the next 16 years or something, and then he gets to go do something else, which will further round his life out. The other people in that, Joe Biden, what's his history?
I don't know about him either.
Don't know.
He wasn't a movie star, so I don't know.
50 years, yeah. Ronald Reagan was well-rounded. He had all kinds of different things he did. Union leader and movie star and all that. Joe Biden was a politician from the start. His family name got him elected early in life, and he's stayed in politics for the last 50 years or so. So he's been there forever. He's less well-rounded because he is just a single master of one thing. And then Kamala Harris is also just one thing.
Also just a politician?
Yeah, she was a lawyer. She did go to law school. She was born in a well-to-do family, though. So she didn't know the hillbilly attitude. She knew life, normal life, in an immigrant family, I guess. And then had a few jobs. And as soon as possible, I think she aspired into the political realm. She was just in the right place at the right time to be who she is. But there's some question about whether she has the ability to debate or to talk longer than a few minutes. So,
is that important for a president? Be able to talk for more than a few minutes?
To be well-rounded?
Is it important for them to be well-rounded? But like being eloquent or being, I'm still
intelligent.
I'm still thinking that presidents don't even matter. They're just like, because we have to have a president, we have a president, and all of the decisions are made by the Senate and the Supreme Court and not
the legislature
by
makes all the laws. The president is the mouthpiece for the country. President does have a bully pulpit. So the bully pulpit, if it can be used, is beneficial. Which, you understand that term? Or
nope,
I
don't.
Something we should talk about, a bully pulpit. That's it's just saying based on your position, you have power and people will listen to the position. They listen to the title that you hold.
Okay.
So that's the way I understand it. So you could look up the definition, but It's just, if you don't have the ability to speak through that platform, as far as enough intelligence or enough of a well-rounded comprehension of what the world is like, or what's out there, what different jobs and careers do, and how to talk about astronauts or how to talk about the military, then you can't really use that effectively. So your voice, I guess it's not required that a president use that bully pulpit, but FDR did it quite adeptly. That's why we have the New Deal. That's why we have Social Security now. That's why we have all this stuff, because the New Deal came out and he was able to talk about it and promote it and get everyone excited. But that was before I don't know necessarily that was the case, but Ronald Reagan was able to do it too. He was a communicator. And I do know Ronald Reagan's time frame, that was before your time, but it was in my time, I understand it. And Donald Trump is the only one now in the last 20 years, probably, well, since Ronald Reagan, I don't think anyone really took that pulpit to use. Ronald Reagan, and then it's Trump that's trying to use it now. He can move crowds with the way he talks.
Sure.
Barack Obama was a little bit that way. He was. Barack Obama could speak and could move crowds with the bully pulpit. He could say things and make the country move.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that people considered Obama would be that
would be well-rounded.
Yeah, would be well-rounded. Okay. So just on the surface of things, I would say Obama was well-rounded. I would say H.W. Bush was not well-rounded. He seemed a little bit shallow to me, but I was a teenager when he was president. And
During
Bill
his
Clinton,
time.
I only know what you guys said about him. I know nothing else.
Yeah, you didn't see Bill Clinton either. You were preteens at that point.
Yeah.
So unaware of what was going on. And so well-rounded may mean that you can talk to different classes of people or different walks of life. So the main thing, so Christ, kind of the pivotal of the whole world, the earth, that says, here's Christ. And what other world leaders are there to consider?
Well, are there...
We're out of more than just the national scale here.
Are there other... I mean, you had mentioned Gandhi.
Gandhi's one of those that the world knew about, the world knows about. You got Hitler, the world knows about Hitler. Stalin knows about the communists, the Mao in China. We don't really know that much about Mao in China because we haven't seen the story. No one's been written about, but it's not been a movie, or there's nothing really about him.
Huh.
He's been quiet, actually. Yeah, they don't want to put out what he did in China.
Okay.
The Chinese don't want to put it out. That's what I mean.
Right.
They don't want anyone to know. But Christ lived a simple life. Just he never owned anything. He never built anything. He came in as the humble. He was a priest, a rabbi. As a rabbi, he was raised up through the temple and through the Jewish line and became who he was, and had his rounding from his father spiritually as opposed to from the teachers around him.
It was...
So with that as a spoke,
Sorry.
was he just as well-rounded, even though it all came from one source?
I think somebody would say, well, of course, because that one source was God. So,
And it was
obviously.
omniscience.
But that's only if we're...
It's obvious he could talk. He could talk to any crowd of people, any group of people. He knew what to say to those people.
Yeah. And is that the goal of being well-rounded? Is being empathetic in your conversation?
Being able to communicate appropriately and effectively with a lot of people. I don't know. It's possible that you could be well-rounded if you never speak. Is the sheriff in a small town in Ohio just as well-rounded, even though he never gave a public speech? Not the sheriff, but the deputy that worked there in the office his whole life, could he be a well-rounded individual?
Well-rounded. This is a harder question to answer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, because it's totally subjective to the person or the situation.
Right. And the reason I ask
that's
these
what
kinds of
well-heeled
questions
means.
is because I'm concerned for myself. Am I well-rounded? Or do I even need to worry about being well-rounded?
Or does it matter? Does it matter? Well-heeled, I think, means supported, rich, or having a lot of support or resources at your disposal. That's what well-heeled is. Not necessarily with animals. Maybe it is with animals too.
Oh, well-heeled with 2 E's, not like was sick and
not
now
health.
is better.
Not like health. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So do you have to be well-heeled? You have to be rich or famous in order to be well-rounded? Probably not. Well-heeled is a different thing. Well-rounded has to be. By the way, is it in the Wikipedia or somewhere like that? Well-rounded or dictionary?
Are we looking it up?
Well-rounded. We're looking at it. Having a smooth, curved shape, or if the person is plump, well-rounded, plump person. Pleasing, varied, or buried for balance. A dry, roasted, robust, well-rounded one. Pleasing, varied, or balanced.
Okay, so Merriam-Webster says fully or broadly developed, such as having a broad educational background, or comprehensive. Something is well-rounded, it's comprehensive.
Yeah, comprehensive. This one says, well, the AI has spit out a variety of skills, abilities, and areas of knowledge. So a variety is well-rounding.
Okay, so maybe being well-rounded isn't like it isn't like a qualification for the world to see this person as a well-rounded person, therefore they are a good person. It's just a way that someone could be. Someone could be well-rounded, or someone could be a specialist. And yeah, I don't know.
Well-rounded, interested in people. The other line here, well-rounded people are interested in the world and interesting to others. So it's curiosity. It's being curious yourself and having, I guess, being interesting. What is that? The book I was reading here. Let me introduce the book, The Noticer by Andy Andrews. This is about Jones, who's an old guy that teaches everybody things. But he has a question that he asked at the beginning of the book and at the end of the book about, let's see, if no one wants to be around you, you know someone whose life in every way just seems to work, has the opportunities one after another that seems never to get discouraged? Well, there are people like that. So if opportunities and encouragement come from other people, and one of the special achievers seems to be getting more than his fair share of opportunities and encouragement from them, why might that be? He said, it has to become someone the others want to be around. That's interesting to others. So a well-rounded person has to become someone others want to be around. That person is fun, happy, and exciting. He's a people magnet. And that's where opportunities are to be shared and encouragement is to be given. The person gets more than, for instance, you, who he's talking to, someone who's not. Said, very simply, young man, you must become the person that others want to be around. This is far and away the greatest success secret in existence.
I like that.
Being interesting to others. That's where it came from.
I think if I was reading that, that's something I would underline.
Yeah.
I might even get it tattooed on my arm. Just kidding.
in Gaelic. No, what's it written in?
Gallifreyan. We get it
Gallifreyan. Okay.
So that all the Time Lords can read it. No one else.
Yeah. So the question he proposes that you need to be asking all the time is, what is it about me that other people would change if they could? So to be aware of what would make you more well-rounded or more interesting to others is, what about me would they change if they could?
And that doesn't necessarily relate at all to whether you have read Moby Dick and the Iliad and whether you've seen the Ballad of Buster Scruggs or or Alice in
Somewhere in
Wonderland.
Time.
Yeah,
Right.
or
Somewhere in Time. And really understood what it's talking about.
so that's you can be not well read and not well watched, and still be someone
But
that
as
other
soon
people
as
like.
someone says something about Moby Dick and saying, this is what you need to understand, you'd be curious about it. So a well-rounded person wouldn't just say, Moby Dick, that's a novel. I don't like novels. They don't not like things. Well-rounded person is interested and interesting. How about that?
Yeah, interested and interesting to who you're around.
Yeah.
Like you can, what if the people that you hang out with are people that always watch movies, and so therefore, if you're going to be around them, you need to also be watching movies or be interested in the movies that they're watching, right?
Yeah, and have an opinion about it. You've got to be interesting, so you have to add your little bit. If you don't add your little bit, then you're not really well-rounded in that circle. If you have nothing to say,
nothing to contribute,
Moby Dick, or Alice in Wonderland, what it really represents, or anything it represents, the Cheshire Cat. What could it mean that there's a smiling cat that disappears? So being curious, being well-rounded, being interested and interesting.
So it's not necessarily being well-rounded, like that specific phrase, that is important. It's, what was the simply put from that noticer's book you just read?
It's simply put, the greatest success secret in existence. You must become a person that others want to be around.
Okay. Maybe that's the answer. Well-rounded or not, whatever that means, you want...
And well-rounded is subjected to the group, other people. It's the people that you're around. You can choose to be under the bridge in San Francisco with those people, and you might be well-rounded if you say nothing, but you just, I don't know what you'd have to do to for them to want to be around you. Maybe you have candy bars or a candy bar, and you're willing to give them a peanut or something. So they're interested in that, and different than if you were sitting in the airport. If you smelled like you did under the bridge, they wouldn't want to be around you in the airport, for sure.
Right.
But the bridge didn't care how you smelled.
Right. So
people
that's
under the bridge.
Subjective.
Subjective to your audience, so the people you're around.
Yeah. Your audience, like you are putting on a show, it implies that you're always adjusting yourself to who's watching.
And that's the idea of circumspection, being circumspect, seeing the area around you, noticing. The title of that book is The Noticer. Jones in there just always knew what everyone was doing around. He knew who was going to be there, who was there. Of course, he's a metaphor for God in this case, for the Spirit and how the Spirit will teach you things. But you've got to be aware of who's there that you're talking to. And the funny thing about Kamala's speaking in this last few days, how she's developed the Southern drawl. She'll talk to people who she feels needs an accent with the accent.
Do you think she does that on purpose?
Controversy. I think it's just kind of automatic, where she did it.
So I was listening.
Yeah, she did it on purpose.
I was listening to a playlist of like Nordic chant music, and it had like Irish stuff in it and Scottish stuff. I was just listening to this while we were constructing the house, and the other guys came. They came back from somewhere, and so I stopped my playlist and I started talking to them, and they're like, "Why do you have an accent right now?" And it's because I was listening to that music. They're like, "You're speaking a little bit Irish right now."
Yeah.
So just where you are,
So
who
you,
you're around changes even subconsciously. There's that word again. You're not noticing. You don't know that you're doing it.
right. You'll get some kind of a drawl that comes into your voice, your words. You start talking like the people around you. The chameleon type idea.
Okay.
But they also they showed in this that Kamala was doing this why, because Hillary Clinton did the same thing. She got into Southern drawls and trying to speak different dialect type inflections if she was trying to impress those people. I know how to talk like y'all or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
So maybe being a well-rounded person is having the knowledge and the skills to fit in to whatever group you're in, whatever group you find yourself in.
yeah, to be able to fit in.
To be able to fit in. And maybe that's why I'm so concerned about it, is because there was a lot of times in my younger life, and maybe there's a lot of times now too, where I'm worried that I just don't fit in with the people that I'm trying to fit in with.
Because you don't know enough about them, or
Like I'm concerned
if you're new to a group,
that
if you're new to a group or an area, you don't fit in because you don't really know enough about them yet.
Yeah. Or
like in your music career right now, you know everything about everyone there, right?
in my what? Again?
Your music career.
Oh, in my
your
music
band,
career. I know everything
band.
about everybody.
Yeah, you're well ingrained in that. You're well rounded as far as understanding everybody. But are there new people there that aren't quite well rounded yet?
Yeah, I think there are.
And you wonder when you enter a new group like that if you're stepping too hard into it. If you're making inroads that shouldn't be made yet, you're advancing too fast.
Yeah.
Stepping on toes.
Yeah, stepping on toes is a concern that a lot of people have when they're brand new in a position. They want to take action on something that they're passionate about, but they're not sure if it's their place.
And maybe it's not their place. Maybe they can burn a bridge by saying something that's completely off the wall or out left field for the group. And then they get ostracized from that point on. You're the one that said this.
Okay. So that's why it matters to me. Is I feel more secure when I feel like I fit in. This is reminding me of something else that I read in another book kind of recently. I don't remember what it is, but it's something to the effect of emotional health, fitting in matters where you are. Gosh, if I had started my commonplace book like 6 months ago and actually kept up on it, then I would be able to have this right in front of me.
You could flip back 7 pages or 10 pages and you'd say, yeah, this is the book. That's what I wrote. Here's what it says.
Fitting in matters, though. That's the thing, is
fitting in matters.
Yeah. And it might be like a 7 Habits. It might be a 7 Habits thing, because in this 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families, they talk about rituals and traditions, and those create a sense of fitting in for your kids. And inside jokes, if you have inside jokes with a group, then you feel like you fit in.
Yeah, you're part of the in crowd.
Yeah, and that's important. That's important. Let's just say, that's the basic gist of it.
And it's comfort. You got to allow people to be comfortable inside the group. If you want the group to be cohesive, it has to be comfortable with each other. The family, the community.
Yeah. Well, so being well-rounded isn't the path. It's just one of the paths to happiness, right?
Well, is it a status of merit? Is Is it a skill you can learn? Can you learn well-roundedness? Or is it a characteristics you can learn too? I mean, the point of this noticer book is that, yeah, you can learn it, identify what things people would change about you, and which one would they change first? Kind of how the idea, and maybe start working on that.
Yeah.
You can focus on being well-rounded, on being interested and interesting to more people. It did kind of use in here, there was an example, most people don't mind if you use a swear word every now and then, but there are some groups of people that get put off by that. And let's say it's 20% of the society you're in. You'd be better off if you're trying to make friends with them or get something done and would like them to like you and you like them, be interested in them, they be interested in you, is if you can not use swear words and have the chance of also influencing that 20%. Because if you do use swear words, that 20% is out. You're automatically hurting yourself by having people, what was the secret again? Which was, you must become a person that others want to be around.
Others want to be around, not just that they tolerate you.
Yeah, there's 20% of them that won't want to be around someone who's got a swearing habit or continuously or whatever. I mean, pay attention to what they want, learn, and be able to be well-rounded in their eyes.
So how can you be well-rounded for other people and still be true to who you are? I mean, I feel like there's a lot said these days about, don't you worry about what other people think about you. You're valid. You're a valid person. You lead a valid existence no matter what. And maybe the only person that really matters is Jesus or God or whatever denomination you are. Like that's the only person that really matters.
Whoever your supreme being is. And if you happen to not have a God in your life, you're the only one that really matters. It's your opinion of yourself. So hold your high self-esteem. Keep your esteem up because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Don't let someone else run you down. And well-rounded, you could do that just within yourself. Then you need to not be open to others' criticisms that damage you. You don't have to be a victim.
Be someone that you like to be around.
Yeah, that was one of Gandhi's statements. Be the change you want to see in the world. So if you think people should be that way, be that way. That's not what I was saying first. People aren't trying to hurt you. If you think people are trying to hurt you, then everyone is trying to hurt you. The only way you can be a victim is if you accept that victim status. If you accept the fact that you're the square peg in a round hole and it just doesn't fit. If you look at life that way, it's always going to be that way. But if you can say, I'm a round peg just as much, I can work this out, self-confident, I'm able to identify what these people are talking about and fit in with them. So yeah, if you think you don't fit in and you can't fit in, then you're going to be ostracized. You're not going to fit in. You're not going to be part of that group. You'll have to pick another group.
Okay.
And it's all within you. So that's what I'm trying to point out. I'm trying to propose, I guess, see if it's true. Is it true that you make the choice as to whether you fit in or not? Because you either adapt or you don't. You say, I'm not willing to adapt to this group who doesn't swear. I'm just not going to be able to not do that. I'm the guy that swears. So that group isn't my people over here.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true. That makes sense. I think I subscribe to that. You choose. Anyway, there's a lot of things that you choose that people think that you don't choose. And I think that's one thing that you can choose. You can choose to fit in. You can choose to put in work to fit in, or you can choose to not fit in. Like, this isn't for me. I'm not going to fit in here.
And as soon as you decide it's not for you, you can still blame them. And I guess you can still take the victim status. They kicked me out, but it's because you don't fit.
Right.
You're not willing to be the type of individual that fits in that Even a swimming team. If you're not going to practice, if you're not really going to like swimming, why would you even want to be in a swimming team? So you could say they kicked me out, or you could say I just didn't want to practice hard enough to get to be as good as all of them.
Yeah, and that's the most honest. I mean, maybe they did kick you out, but really the reason they did was because of a choice you made.
You didn't want to put in the effort. I mean, there may be some person that wants to join the bagpipe band and doesn't want to practice and wants to always play the wrong notes that would just be invited not to come back.
Yeah, it's really hard to invite someone to not come back. It's a very difficult thing because
when it's a
you like
voluntary
the people
thing and
so
you
much
need people.
too.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how bad they want to be. If their whole purpose is just to mess up every time. Of course, you don't get people in that. People don't join a group usually because they want to break it up. They join it because they want to participate. They want to fit in.
That's true.
So they want to be the people who don't want to fit in, just they don't join. No, I can't be a member of that church because that church isn't comfortable for me. Stuff like that. So what about a well-rounded religious mindset? What is that? Is someone who's a zealot, could they be considered well-rounded? Or a fanatic, right?
Yeah, my instinct says no.
No, they're stuck in there. Wear the religion on their sleeve. If you wear your religion on your sleeve and everything has to do with that, and everything you talk about is that. That's all you can talk about. That's what do you call that type of person? A fanatic, right?
Yeah, very pious, maybe.
Not pious. Yeah. So they're not well-rounded. They're not interested in someone else's idea. They know their ideas are true. They have it on their shirt sleeves. They can read it, and they present it all the time. So they are who they are, and they're always presenting that one model, but they're not able to be interested in what someone else has to say, and they're not interesting to someone else of another background.
Yeah, they're interesting to maybe a very few people who feel the same way that they do.
Yeah, if you get too ingrained in one thing, so let's use this horrible Taylor Swift music again.
It's not horrible, okay? It's just not your cup of tea.
But it is what it's in the genre. She tried country. I think she's not going to change genres of her music or whatever the style. She hasn't changed it. That's only my opinion, so I don't know. Maybe she has.
Okay.
Maybe she has different albums. But an artist usually is an artist in a given area, and that's what they do. They don't do something else.
Garth Brooks is country.
Garth Brooks is country, and that's what he does. And he doesn't do gospel, or he doesn't do jazz.
Right.
So they all have their specific areas. And if you love Garth Brooks, you love him because he's country. And if you don't love him because you don't love country, that's okay. He doesn't mind. He can be fanatical country.
Yeah. It's okay if someone doesn't like you, right?
And that's where he's still well-rounded in his area, but he may not be well-rounded to someone else. I mean, you select your group to be well-rounded in. Yeah, so the rounded depends on who you really want to impress or be interested in and be interested in you.
Right. And that's a choice.
That group.
That's a choice you're making.
You choose your environment and where you fit in. And if Garth feels he just doesn't fit in the opera stage, then he's just not going to play much time in opera.
Right. Okay. I think maybe we've got something figured out. I mean, I'm feeling better about my desire to be well-rounded. I'm not feeling better about how guilty I feel that I'm not well-rounded yet. But
well, and you'd have to identify what group you're not well-rounded in, because well-rounded doesn't mean as a person. It means
situational.
Where you desire to fit in. It's situational. You could care less if you're well-rounded in let's see, what's the golf world. Well, maybe you might care about golf.
Sports. Yes, I am not well-rounded in sports, and I
football.
don't care one little bit.
Whether you're well-rounded in football or not.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's fine. You're not trying to be well-rounded there. It's not bothering you, but it bothers you that you're not well-rounded somewhere
In
else.
other areas. I've got to identify that.
Yeah.
It's
What's
gonna
the
take
area
some
you want to
thinking.
be well-rounded in? And then that's what you have to start working on is as people are interested in me, I'm interested, they're interested in them, they're interested in me. And
Who
what
is
was
it
this
that I'm
other
trying to hang
statement
out with?
that I keep forgetting? And what are their characteristics that I need to be? What is it that people want to be around in that group? What do people want to be around in that group? And how can I become that type of person? How can I be that well-rounded for that group? So I like the community I live in. There's a lot of cowboy type people, and I'm not cowboy enough for them. They'll talk to me, but they won't invite me to their barbecue,
to their cowboy activities.
Yeah, they won't invite me to their roundup, because he's not cowboy enough for that. So I'm not invited, and
Do you want
that
to
may
go
feel
to the
bad.
roundup?
I don't know, probably not. I mean, if I wanted to, I could ask, and they would let me go, and they would lend me a horse. But I don't have my horse. I'm not trying to do that. So it's probably okay that I'm not in that circle. I'm fine with just being able to talk to that circle, but not necessarily fit in. When they're calling people to come and help with the roundup and help with the moving the cows, I guess I felt bad. I've got an old trailer. My trailer wasn't asked to be used when they're moving cows.
Yeah.
And I've thought maybe I should get my trailer built up so that it could be one that they could think about asking to help. And maybe I still could do that. That's okay. I'm not necessarily concerned about being well-rounded in their eyes, knowing
In
enough
their
about
community.
horses in order to do it.
Huh. It would be sure awesome. It sure would be cool if you were that well-rounded.
If I was that cowboyish, not much of a cowboy.
But it does require a bit more than what you have right now.
And requires more than just trying, more than just having a trailer that you could use possibly, and more than wearing a cowboy hat, more than wearing the boots, and going down to the bar or you could go to the bar because it's probably where some of them hang out, or going to this grocery store or the gas station and sitting there and talking to them, getting to know them a little bit. It'd take more than that, more than just trying to push yourself in. You'd be an outsider.
More than a can-do activity, a can-do attitude.
Yeah. You'd have to be, I don't know how you get into that. Find out who they like and then get to be liked by them. You've got to hang out with them. Yeah. If you want to introduce yourself to a new group and try to fit in, it would be somewhat insulting if I just put on some nice shiny cowboy boots, got a big buckle and a cowboy hat, and I walked up and said, "Hey guys, partners, how you doing?"
Partners.
Yeah. How about we go on a roundup? What do you think? Try to get a country twang in my voice. That would be offensive, I think.
It might, yeah.
And let's start calling him 10-gallon hat. He's got all hat, no cows.
Well, okay. So I do have some thinking to do then.
And it's how you join that group. How do you, if you have a group you care about joining, the thing to think about is how you become well-rounded in that group, what that group represents, what they would change about you. Kind of the book, that Noticer book. What they would change about you if they could, which they can't, but you can start thinking about that and identifying, it seems like we clashed right there. What would the clash? What would he change? What would they change if they could about me? And then you can start working on changing that to become more able to fit in, more well-rounded in that group.
Right. Well, I need to get a copy of that book and put it with all of the other 10 books that I have to read right now.
Yeah.
The ones that I'm thinking about right now, I have at least 400 books that I do have to read. But
in reality, it doesn't matter which book you pick up. You're gonna find stuff in it that matches. So
yes. Yeah.
it'll be fine. And it probably is in Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People philosophy as well. It'll be everywhere. So
Yeah.
be well-rounded. Being well-rounded isn't a bad thing, and it's something you can work on. I think it's a skill you can develop. You just have to be aware of it, aware of where you were a little rough and people would like to change you, which they can't. They probably would never say it. Hopefully you're thinking about it well enough that you don't make it obvious that you're trying to work on it. But you can just identify, this I can do a little bit differently.
Right. Well, I think that might do for that conversation. Did you just say
so
good
it's
night?
a good thing. Good thing to be well-rounded.
Oh.
Let's do it.
It is a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing to be well-rounded, situationally, environmentally. Where you are, where you want to be.
And where you want to be. The environment you want to be in, you've got to be well-rounded in order to be accepted and fit into that environment, that community, and in our other conversations. So you select the community you want to be a part of. You got to be well-rounded in that community for the community to be successful, effective.
Yeah. I went in with this question thinking that there was a universal list that applies to everyone. Here, check this off, and if you check all of these boxes, then you are a well-rounded person.
Yeah. If you know these 20 books. Probably in every community, if you knew those 20 books for that community, you'd be well-rounded. But there's going to be 20 books for every different community you go to.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Let's
Very
call
good.
it quit.